I know in general he's just really impressed with Europe, and he hadn't been to Europe before, and I remember him saying, things like that it was him that got, that demanded that all these German prisoners be put to work.
Right.
I remember him talking about this green rug. He talked about that many times. He wanted to get a rug of a particular color for the courtroom, and it sounded like he drove over, through a few different countries and finally found one in Paris. And he called up his boss or something, and I think it was something like $40,000 US at that point or something, and the guy said, yeah, go ahead and get it. I think the Nuremberg thing was a pretty doggone big impact on him, and I know he designed the thing and he put a chair in for himself, Captain Kiley, and he watched the trials for 3 days, and he, in his words, he watched all these bastards walk by, referring to whoever it was Goering and Speer, and well, you've got the list.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
My father didn't sort of blast people too much, but he had a real sort of inner despise for the Nazis. I remember just a few times during the course of his life, he referred to somebody as a goddamn Nazi, and that was very, very rare for my father. Not that he didn't put people down, but I know he had a special spot for them. And then he had a chance to get out of the army. Some order came through, and if he jumped on it, he could get out. And he hadn't been married to my mother long, so he got sort of a passage on an airplane where an officer above him couldn't bump him, and so he watched the trials for 3 days, and then hightailed it back to New Hampshire, where my mother and he lived in Franconia. But he did go back to Nuremberg. I imagine the building, the Palace of Justice, is probably. I think my father said there was nothing left of what he had designed with regard to the trials. I remember him saying that he designed the benches, and he designed for the prisoners, and he designed them, with straight backs and no cushions, so it wouldn't be comfortable for them. I remember him saying that. And they might have added cushions or something.
Did he ever mention Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, God, he mentioned all of them, and one in particular I remember he mentioned was Dodd.
Construction of the courthouse so that there could be a trial is certainly pivotal, and your dad was in the middle of that.
Yeah, he sure was. I mean, it's been depicted, I forget, a few different times, but he, was sort of a young, brash, kind of very overly confident guy that just made things happen, and that he ended up doing that until, he didn't stop working until in his late 80s, and that was because he'd had a small stroke and he just physically couldn't perform anymore.
Right.
My father was a landscape architect, but he was just hugely impressed with European architecture and landscape architecture. It was sort of something that had affirmed everything that he had felt about landscape architecture was the way, particularly the French and the Italians, their landscapes were designed. But
thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
oh yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.